The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, Review.
Welcome everybody to the Wrestling to the Max Raw Review for January 16th, 2017. And we are brought to you by the W2M Network. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go do that now. And also, you need to go check out W2Mnet.com. Not only going to find this podcast and all the other show reviews that we do, but you're going to find much, much more great content like written reviews and also some other content besides wrestling, video games, and even football. So go check those out. But now it's time to talk Monday Night Raw.
Yes, and we start off Monday Night Raw with the carousel of people that WWE likes to do now and again on Raw, especially with this being Royal Rumble season. They're going to be discussing and doing these kind of things here. I love how Roman Reigns is like, I'm not going to talk about how I lost Cesaro, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. And then Paul Heyman comes out to talk about how Brock Lesnar's here, but Goldberg is not because a bunch of Goldberg chants. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho come out. Seth Rollins comes out. Braun Strowman comes out. Sami Zayn, oh my god. Just the whole world comes out here. And then Brock Lesnar comes out to take out some dudes, but then he ends up giving Roman Reigns an F5 because he Superman punched him. So you have that, which sets up a six-man tag that winds up being your main event later in the show. And also includes two funny backstage segments with Jericho and Owens talking to Braun Strowman about, hey man, we finally got you on our side. I loved how they played off this. If you don't remember, there was previously, like way back when Strowman was still kind of not really doing a whole lot, they tried the storyline for a while with them trying to get Braun Strowman on their side, and it didn't really work. Well, now they finally did, and Braun Strowman's like, dude, I don't care. I'm just gonna be basically whooping ass. I don't care about y'all's deal. And then Sami Zayn tries to start his own Shield with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and Rollins and Reigns agree that he's crazy. So they're not. He's even crazier than Ambrose. And then you have your main event, which it wasn't that good to begin with, but it got better as it went on, I thought, and then it closed really well to wind up being a very good six-man tag with Owens, Jericho, and with Strowman doing the power slam to defeat Sami Zayn. And then after the match, Strowman got attacked by Roman and Rollins. And I think some other stuff happened, which I can't remember right now. But yeah.
I mean, in the long run, guys to be a part of the Royal Rumble. They all have to make their appearances. They do their thing. That's what this is all about. I will say this. Usually before the Royal Rumble, all this chaos annoys me. And to an extent, this kind of annoys me. But it doesn't annoy me so bad. Done a good job of building up some of these feuds, I think, to an extent. I mean, I'm still not loving the whole Kevin Owens and all these other guys like Jericho and Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns all together. That stuff just gets so monotonous over time. We've seen this so many times. I mean, come on. Adding Braun Strowman into the mix, throwing even Sami Zayn in does help. but at the same time, it still is not super, super strong, super exciting. Adding in Brock Lesnar, though, does something that really creates excitement. That was a plus on this show. Of course, as much money as WWE pays him, it definitely should be a plus. But that gives us a little bit more life, I think. And at the end, when they do their final match, I think it all worked out the way it needed to, right? So we've really figured out, guess what, Roman Reigns' music's going to be played last on Raw. So guess what? It's eventually going to turn out to be their night. But no, in the end, we have actually Kevin Owens being the only guy standing tall, which I loved. And he actually was able to overcome and prevail, which we haven't seen as of late. So out of all this, and out of all the mess and chaos and all that, this works. And we're going to get more mass confusion. We're going to get more craziness because the closer we get to Rumble, guess what? More people enter in. The more we're going to get closer to that final Raw where they're all going to be in the ring and doing the whole gig. So this works. Actually, this is not as the worst that they've done with this whole main event scene.
I think the thing that makes all this interesting is that they've added Zayn and Owens to the carousel now, and their feud is still pretty hot. I think I agree with Larry over 401, though. You maybe should have held off on Sammy returning until the Rumble. But I think it added a lot to this episode of Raw at the very least because you have Strowman get the win over Zayn in the match, and that feeds into the thing that, well, Strowman finally beat him, or at least put him down. So how is that going to react into everything else? And I mean, I love Owens standing tall, but it feels too little too late at this point, right? Like, I don't know how exactly all this played out on television, but it reads like, it's like their last gasp of trying to make Owens sort of matter in this whole thing, that maybe it's not going to be a runaway for Reigns that everybody thinks it's going to be, even though it really feels like it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that it's just really a lot of too little too late. Then it's like, just, okay, well, we're going to try to salvage this, and I don't think a lot of people are going to care at the end.
Yeah. No, I get that. And, this is just a small win, if I can say it that way. It's just a small victory of, okay, look, Owens isn't so bad, is he? Okay, he's actually going to get a little, love here, where we've been ignoring him for so long now. He's just been kind of our champion, kind of thrown in. So that's where I'm coming from on that. I know it's not a long-term win. I know it's nothing that's going to be over-exciting when it ends the Rumble. I think this is a nice point, and just for this Raw, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But even though it is too little too late, I have to agree with that, because you've knocked this guy down so much, you made him look silly. But just right now as it stands, at least when we take him into the Rumble, hopefully, we actually believe this guy is a credible champion to defend that title, right? I mean, I don't want to go into that thinking, oh, he's just going to lose. He's just going to... No, I want to feel like he could actually win. So this is a start to that. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't want it to sound like I'm taking anything away from Owens. I love the guy. I think he's been good as a champion whenever they decide to focus on him. They just haven't, because they've been focused on everybody else but him. And it really sucks, because this guy could have been great. This reign could have been amazing. And instead it's just probably going to end up being a footnote to whatever else happens with the rest of the crew here.
Yeah, wow, we will have to certainly figure out where this goes from here. But moving on from your main event section of Raw, we get into the finer details, I guess, and the other big promoted deal from Raw was the tag team title match between Sheamus and Cesaro against Anderson and Gallows. This was a really, really good match. I really enjoyed the heck out of this match. This is the best match Anderson and Gallows have had on WWE TV. I don't understand why you do a dusty finish with a heel team. Like, wait, what? Like, what happened? I thought they won the titles. Why aren't we having a ref go in and say, oh no, there was a DQ? Like, come on. Like, who thought this was a great idea? You're trying to get people to cheer for Cesaro and Sheamus. Or at least for Cesaro, and then you're going to cheat the heels out of a... Okay.
It is kind of annoying, and I'm right there with you. I was happy to see, once again, it's too little too late, but I was happy to see that, at least, you got the thought process going that, Gals and Anders can actually win these titles. They could actually do it. But it just goes to figure. No, it's not going to happen. These guys still... Yeah, you still got egg on your face, even though you won by disqualification.
Oh, because Anderson bumped into the ref. Like, how many times do we have ref bumps and nothing happens?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is as bad as the NFL refs. We can't figure out what a hold is and what isn't. I mean,
wow.
Come on.
But they won. Gallows and Anderson won because it was Sheamus who knocking out the ref.
Right.
So, I mean...
Right, but they called a DQ.
Yeah, still it's disqualification. Well, it's just that's what it is you feel like those two guys won the championship belts, and then the next thing you know, ref is going to change that disqualification. It's annoying. It's just straight up annoying. It is, man. I mean, are these guys ever going to get a chance? I don't know. They may eventually hold the
they're going to
titles.
become faces because they keep getting so close, but not.
Well, here's the thing. The more you treat them like this, the more these type of things happen. In the long run, if you do want them to be champions, you better put them in a 3 to 4 month winning streak where no one could even touch them before they're going to even look like they're credible champions. Right now, they look like a bunch of guys who, if they won the titles, it's a fluke, and they'll not hold on to it for 3 days. That's the way I feel about them right now. They're just in that bad spot. They need to get out of it.
I think of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's that far yet, but I see what they're trying to do, right? Anderson and Gallows do get the pin. They do actually, pin Sheamus. I think it's Sheamus that they pin at least, and get the belts for that hot second, right? And it's totally a face move, and it's totally not what they've been trying to do with the club. But it does at least make you feel like, hey, they can beat these guys. Right. So there is something going on there. It's just this is the absolute wrong way to do it, because obviously they're supposed to be the bad guys here. But it's really hard when the other team and the champions are a team that's only just started recently getting along, even though they've done a great job, I think, of at least building up that these guys still aren't simpatico with each other at times. And it makes it very complicated, and that's not something I really think you want in an undercard feud. You really want it to be clear-cut.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Completely there. But, I mean, again, I definitely think you should go watch this match. If you really think Gallows and Anderson suck or whatever, I would tell you to beg to differ after watching this.
Mm-hmm.
But going on from that, now you get into the stuff that sort of wasn't advertised. And one of the things that happened over the weekend was the passing of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And this is if you're listening to these shows out of order, we probably might have already mentioned this on the regular W2M, so apologize for hearing us talk about this twice, or you're going to hear us talk about this twice. This kind of happens sometimes. But they had a really good, but also very long and sympathetic memorial video for him. I don't know. I mean, I felt really weird about this because pretty much know he killed that woman. But WWE obviously using the tactic of, well, never been found in court, so means nothing to us. We're going to honor him. I think obviously their hand is obviously forced as well when you have his daughter working for you and other family members working for you, and then obviously other family that has worked for you in the past that will crying outrage if you don't do something for him too. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're caught in that spot of, is this appropriate, is it not appropriate? And I think they have to go by what, is legal. And legal would tell you, Jimmy Snuka is never found guilty of anything. And, in the long run, it's going to be a case that's going to be probably cold forever. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever figure it out. So I think WB just, like you said, they have his daughter employed underneath them, and they've got a lot of other people that look up and say, you kind of set the standard for these things. And I think they just wanted to give him some respect. They honored his career. I really don't have a problem with it. I don't maybe agree with maybe if he got away with something evil, but it just, once again, I wasn't there. I can't tell you. I mean, I think it happened in 83, 84. I was just born if it happened, or maybe it was before I was even born, so I was not there. So at the end of the day, you got to give him some credit. He had a great wrestling career. He really moved a lot of people, and he also brought a lot of guys into the business who, followed his example. So I don't know. It's hard. This is a slippery slope I don't like going down, but I can't really fault WWE for doing this.
Yeah, I can't either. Like you said, the dude has family working here. He obviously meant a whole lot to them, no matter what he did. And really, the guy was one of their top baby faces for nearly a decade throughout the 70s and into the 80s some. So, I mean, this guy meant a lot to this company. He made them a lot of money, and I can understand your feelings about if you believe he did murder somebody. But, I mean, at the same time, it's a guy who did a lot for this company and for wrestling in general. I mean, obviously, he took his career elsewhere after WWE was done with him and into ECW and some other places. So it's still sad when somebody loses family, And you see a lot of stuff on social media and people's different reactions, which I'm sure we've talked about already on the other episode. But, geez, like, it's still, a man died. He should still be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think he should be. And like you guys said, he had a wonderful career, one that he is a legend. And I think it was hard for me because I said, look, this is a guy that if it wasn't for the whole thing, I would have said, okay, we need to get on and do a tribute show because this guy is worth doing one for. And it just happened and whatever, but it was just one of those, like, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't take, wrestling Twitter can be very hard at times on things, but the vibe I was getting from there was, well, I'm glad we didn't do it because there was a lot of people that kind of had that same feeling that I did. It was just like, well, we're not even mentioning that woman. We're not saying anything. We're acting like it didn't even exist. And like I said, technically nothing was ever proven in the court of law, so WWE doesn't have to do anything. But it's kind of like one of those, well, now you got a guy out there trying to prove OJ didn't do it, or whatever, or OJ did it, or he didn't do it, or whatever, and this is kind of like WWE's version of that. You kind of know what happened, but we don't have anything that says concrete he did, so this is what it is, Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the guy did suffer from dementia and all that stuff when he died, so it's not like I can't try to put this in the same category as whatever that family suffered, but it's not like he wasn't suffering when he was dying.
Yeah.
He was.
Exactly.
So.
And, once again, I mean, he did suffer and he had his own demons to face. But, I mean, I look at it as, people are going to have their opinions about this, and it's going to be on one side or the other. It's very political. At the end of the day, though, you have to look at the fact that I can understand some people arguing for him, saying, he, like, Paul just said, I mean, this guy was one of the biggest baby faces in the company at one time, and he meant a lot to a lot of fans. And sometimes it's hard to pull away from that, even though, you hear rumors and you hear bad things about people that you really look up to. You still want to hold on to that. You want to hold on to that glory, that person that you have ingrained in your memory. And I can't fault those fans for it. And I also can't fault the fans who are mad and still sick to their stomachs thinking that this guy's getting any kind of recognition after the accusations against him. So it's really tough. It's a slippery slope. I mean, you've got, people out there still who think that Chris Benoit is innocent. They really believe that someone came in there and put a hit on his family and made him look like he did it and framed him. That's very far-fetched, but at the end of the day, it's still out there. And so I don't blame you on whatever side of the fence you are. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to say that WWE kind of had to do this. And I think that in a way it was needed to be done because legally never found guilty.
All right. So, moving on, we had 3 cruiserweight segments on this show. We had Jack Gallagher come out on commentary for an Arya Daivari and Lince Dorado match, which went about like 2 minutes or so. Really, WWE, come on, you're doing these guys a total disservice if you're having them out here for 2 minutes. But thankfully, actually, with Arya Daivari being out there and he's so boring, I'm fine with this one kind of going short. You get him a squash win so that he looks strong going into the what's this called? It's not an I Quit match, but it's a I Forfeit match.
Forfeit. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I Forfeit match.
Hey, why not? You got to have your own vernacular for this thing.
Yeah.
Neville comes in and keeps us from getting a Tony Nese and Rich Swann match because Neville, he just hates everyone in the Cruiserweight division. So why not? I love it.
Yeah.
I just love Neville. And then you get Brian Kendrick is now the jobber to all the Cruiserweights as he loses to Cedric Alexander. And then he does the Alicia Fox comes in wanting a hug, and he's like, "Oh, nope. You are denied, woman." And, yeah.
Out of all these, I mean, Cedric Alexander may be the most interesting, only because the Alicia Fox thing does kind of bleed over later. They even do an interview with her where she freaks out, which, I mean, honestly, she's doing a great job. I really like her work.
Great job melting down.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny to say, but I mean, it's very believable. And I like it. I like the fact that it's believable. Cedric Alexander also, in this whole thing with Brian Kendrick and all that was also funny because of the fact that their reactions to her coming out. I love, when Brian Kendrick tells her, go back in the back toots and those things like that. I thought, oh my God, he's showing his age. And you're right. I mean, he is becoming more of the jobber guy, but that's
Brian Kendrick looks like that creepy homeless guy that you go by with your wife or whatever, and he makes those creepy passes at him too. And it's like, dude, really?
It's true, though. I mean, it really is. He's just that wily old veteran who's a nuts who doesn't shower but every other day. But I mean, he plays a role fine. So Gallagher thing with Daivari, it didn't need to be said. They're just setting up. It's fine. And then, of course, Neville. How can you not love Neville? I mean, we saw in the UK Championship tournament, this night 2, he did a great job, and this he does a great job. I mean, for the first time, I'm sitting here saying to myself, man, Neville is growing as a character, and he's getting better and better. And his ring work's great, but now his character as a whole is just so much more better than it was.
Yeah, I think Neville's one of the most interesting acts in the company right now. If you're not watching 205 Live and you're only getting glimpses of it here on Raw, you're missing out because the dude has been on fire since he came back, and I think the Cruiserweight title match might be one of the most anticipated match on that card, just with how well they've been doing with that in Swan. And I think everything else they've been doing on that show is sort of starting to catch up to pace now. You know, you have Jack Gallagher, who's a breakout superstar. Brian Kendrick sort of turning into a jobber to the stars, and it makes it feel like that title run he got was just to sort of legitimize him. So whenever he starts putting over these other guys, they're going to feel like a bigger deal. And when you look at guys like Cedric Alexander, who I think they have a lot of high hopes for, especially coming out of the Cruiserweight Classic and all the chains he got and the great matches that he had, and the guy's got superstar written on him. They just got to get him there, like they've started doing with some of these other guys. They're going to have to start building another heel outside of Neville, though, because they need more feud prospects, and Arya Daivari just ain't going to cut it.
Yeah. Is Noam Dar, is he supposed to be a heel? I thought he was.
Is.
Yeah.
So I think he's doing a good job of it. I mean, maybe not at the level of Brian Kendrick, but I think he's at least got that potential.
I think they're still building that act, too, right? You know, the feud with him and Cedric and going with Alicia Fox. I think once you get out of that and pair them up, you might have something on your hands. It just, so far, it doesn't feel like that number 2 heel yet. You know, it's Neville and then everybody else at this point.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I mean, all I remember is Alicia Fox.
I love it.
Yes, I do as well. I mean, I don't know how you can't love that. It's one of these
adult, but you can get away with it in front of a kid.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the most interesting storylines they have going on 205 Live. So, I mean, I'm fine with them continuing the thing here, and of course they had an attack of Sasha Banks before Raw by Nia Jax because they were doing this workout with Sasha Banks where she's trying to show that her leg is okay or whatever, or her knee or whatever it is that's wrong with her. And then Nia Jax comes in wrestling gear to attack Sasha Banks. I mean, I don't know. I guess Nia Jax is still real to her. She comes in with the wrestling gear all the time. But I was fine with this. It makes Nia Jax uber heel here, and I really liked her promo later, where she's like, "Oh, Sasha Banks is just such a fake boss. Like, I've taken that out of her. I mean, I don't know where she gets this whole thing about being the boss. I have shown that that's all a bunch of crap, and I was fine. I mean, she did it way better than I just did. I don't have the words in front of me to really look at it, but I liked it. And then you had the Charlotte and Bayley segment, which I don't know. Charlotte was okay in her delivery of showing you the whole Bayley is a mark, guys. This all came off to me as, hey, we hate you, fans. Fans, you suck ass, by the way. I'm just telling you, this company, I don't know any other company that wants to go around hating on their fans but WWE. Seriously.
I'm just thinking to myself, what if Disney came out and says, Star Wars, come buy the new action figures, you nerds. You know what I mean? You guys are dorks, but come buy our product. Yeah, I get you. Oh my God.
That's how I feel half the time with this company.
Hey, this McDonald's. Come buy a double cheeseburger, fatso.
Yeah, I get it. She was making fun of Bayley and whatever, and then it was much better when Bayley came out and actually defended herself. And then she got to talk about how her dad took her to every WWE show that came, and it didn't matter where she was sitting, and that was the part I think they finally got the crowd into it, but I don't know. don't think that this hit as much as they wanted it to hit.
I'm just going to briefly touch on the other one real quick before I jump into that. I just want to say Nia Jax did a fine job. It makes sense. They didn't have to do a lot of story. They didn't have to have anything on Raw with them. This is just a perfect way to get that done in just a few minutes. Nia Jax is getting better, and even though she, only can wear her wrestling gear, I guess, maybe the flight that she took her clothes with it. So, but at the end of the day, did good. Then I'll say this. I mean, Charlotte is one of the best talkers when it's the women's division, and I don't think she did a bad job here. It went a little lengthy. I'll say that they took quite a bit of time setting this whole thing up. Just basically going through all the personal letters and showing video of Bayley and just trying to make her look like she's a silly kid who just loves wrestling, and how dumb is she for being like this and all that. Yeah, I get that. I don't think it's really Charlotte's delivery. I think it was just the length, and I think it just kind of took a toll on you a little bit. I think this thing really ramped up, though, when Bayley came out. And not just because of Bayley, but the interaction between her and Charlotte. Everything that Bayley had to say was a good rebuttal, talking about her personal life, getting into really honestly, into the character and to the mode of, hey, I'm like you fans. I have not always been able to afford the best seats when I came to wrestling events. I've sat in the nosebleed. I've sat in seats where I couldn't even see anything. That all the wrestlers were like ants. All that. That's very relatable to your audience. That's just going to get people to love Bayley even more. She's just like one of you. She's like me. I've done all that before myself. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like this helps the feud. At the end of the day, I think this also helps Bayley just in general. This is something I've been waiting for a while now, for Bayley to get into the fans and get a hold of the fans. She hasn't done that yet. I think this is getting her closer to that. So if that's all this segment does, I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's really where the money is with these two women's feud, right? Is you've made Charlotte and Sasha now after their 7-month-long feud where they had every match imaginable and really traded the championship. And now it's about getting these other two girls over and letting Bayley carry the promo work and just letting Charlotte sort of be Charlotte, and you get what you get out of her, on a week-to-week basis. I think that's really where you're going to get fans interested is trying to build Bayley, and I think they did a better job with it with Nia here because it's easier to get monster heels over, right? You throw them in there, you let them look angry, you let them beat people up, and suddenly people are into them. And Sasha can play such a great babyface too, especially underdog. Her run where she came out of nowhere in NXT and became what she is probably still one of the best things they've done there as far as the women's division goes. So let's get more of that.
Yeah, certainly. I just wonder how many more of these storylines WWE's gonna try to stick it to the fans. Screw you guys. All right.
How dare you give us money?
Yeah.
Well, you keep giving us money, so until you boycott, screw you.
Buy your ticket so we can, degrade you.
Buy your tickets so the WrestleMania will just not be anything about you at all. But Enzo and Cass also take on Rusev and Jinder Mahal. This was fine. The crowd was really into this. But I really hope this is ending.
Yeah, the crowd. The crowd was into it, but I was very. I was just like, I've seen this. I mean, heck, all they did was come out and basically do their shtick. They didn't even do any jokes or anything with Enzo, which is honestly fine. You don't need any more because how many jokes can you say about Rusev? So they
and I still don't know why I need to hate Rusev.
Yeah, exactly. Just filler. That's all this was, for me at least.
Other than Jinder Mahal just being dumb,
How much did Enzo get? Because he's supposed to have that leg injury still.
He was bouncing out there pretty good. I mean, honestly, in fact, You know, they didn't really shy away from doing most of his normal shtick. I mean, he even did the, Kaz picking him up and throwing him. So I'm assuming he's not that bad off if he's letting gravity touch that leg.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it can't be all that bad. I mean, you guys are right. This is filler. It's wasting time and getting Enzo and Cass more time before they throw him up for the. They got to put him in the tag title scene eventually, right? I mean, they've been dicking around with him since they brought him up, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of us, they didn't want them to face the New Day. So, now that you have it on another tag team, I think now would be the time to move them in there.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. Speaking of the New Day, welcome to the worst segment on Raw on this show. The worst two segments. Because for some reason, they decided they need to have a match after the segment 2. So, New Day come out to talk about, well, hey, all 3 of us in the Royal Rumble, what are we going to do? Oh, well, if one of us wins, we all win. Yay, us. And then Titus O'Neil has to come out because this has to continue. Basically, Titus says, well, you know what? I'm going to end the New Day. And then we have a match between Big E and Titus O'Neil. And my God, this was terrible. Titus O'Neil, just stop. Just quit wrestling.
Yeah, it's not even just about that. This whole feud is just like, hey, New Day, you lost your titles? We have nothing for you, but we're going to want you on TV. So here's a guy that we really don't care about. Talk to him.
This is that moment where, that meme of Vince McMahon comes up. Why is this happening? Fuck you. That's why. That's why we're doing this.
But he's such a great listener, Sean.
He's such a listen. I don't know what he's listening for with this feud, but I mean, Titus O'Neil is like that guy that shows up at all your parties and is not invited. Mm-hmm. This is what Titus O'Neil feels like in this entire feud. And
the poor New Day is he assigned people to talk to him to keep him away from everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's been a year almost since the Titus pulling Vince's arm.
Wow. It is crazy to think about. It felt like that just happened like a few months ago. But yeah, I mean, it's also surprising that he's still on this roster, only because I kind of thought they were going to be letting him go. And I think he really, I thought at one time wanted to go. I don't know. I'm a little bit still shocked, especially since they're not really doing much with him. I mean, this gimmick sucks. What's it doing right now? I feel bad for him. I really do. I like Titus. I have nothing against the guy. It's just right now, they don't care. It's not going to help him at all.
Yeah, this ain't working, and the New Day needs to do something else, because if they want to keep him as the babyface act, and this is where it really sucks that the top 2 titles are involved in the main event scene and are sort of held hostage by him, because that U.S. title, a feud with Jericho here with these guys would be great. I mean, you have them trade out spots trying to beat him or whatever. It's either you need to do something with these guys or you need to break one of them off, because they need to be freshened up now. They can't keep doing this, and especially with them not being the tag champs anymore. The reason for them to have the spotlight is sort of just more about keeping them out there to keep showing the merch, right? So it would really help if they started doing something that people cared about outside of Titus. And when it comes to Titus, spring cleaning is around the corner, I hear. So.
Sounds like someone's going to be going to.
I don't know will they actually do it, because he is a great guy for community service or whatever.
They do love him as the ambassador for any kind of charity. So I don't know, but I mean, you're going to have to start cutting something here.
The University of Florida would, use his ambassador services and also throw him on the coaching staff. So
that's very true. Yeah, but that's going to do it for Raw on this show. So we got to get into a rating.
You know, we had a few negatives here, but to be honest with you, this was nothing compared to all the negatives I had for you last week. I felt like I actually watched a Raw that had a point, and a lot of these segments were exciting. The cruiserweights, even though it wasn't a lot, it was more quantity maybe over quality. But I still enjoyed almost all these cruiserweight classic stuff. I mean, that was good. I think the women did fine. I think their divisions looked good tonight, and I think that the rest of this whole main event stuff with the Royal Rumble and all that said me, I'm going to give this thing as I'll give it a 7. Fair enough. I think it was a good show. I don't think it was excellent, but I think it matched up to what it should going into a big pay-per-view.
I mean, you have two good matches here, right? You have some solid build elsewhere across at least the cruiserweight division, which seems to finally be heating up into something. The women's segments seem to build towards what they're trying to accomplish there. And, I mean, everything seems, for the most part, on the show to have a point outside of the terrible New Day stuff and maybe a couple of other segments here or there. I mean, I'd 6.5.
Yeah, I was gonna go with a 6.5. There was a lot more good on this show than there was bad. Just a lot of it was short, and but you had two really good matches on the show, so that's something. If you like your wrestling, this was a good wrestling show, I thought. And there you go. All right, Gary.
All right. Well, let's get this thing going with the W2M Network. Yeah, that's right. If you haven't subscribed, please go do that now. Also, go check out W2Mnet.com. Until next time, guys, if you're not living life to the max,
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.